Dutch bulbs. Back around the 1st of November, we potted up hyacinths and daffodils and tulips and crocus, and we put them tightly together in the pot. We gave them a good drink of water, and then we set them in the frame. Before we set them in the frame, we put 1 inch of this perlite on the bottom of the frame so that the pots, even no matter how cold it got, wouldn't freeze to the bottom. And at this time of the year, 12 weeks later, we had come to the frame, scrape some of the perlite away, reach down and get a pot, and that would be, that's what it's all about. So here's a tulip that is a single early, and it's called Princess Irene, and you can see the sprouts just beginning to come, and that will just be a beautiful sight when all of these little sprouts begin to come up in just a few more days. Over here I've got a narcissus called Unsurpassable. That's a little bit further along, and boy, they're beauties. I'm really pleased with them. You can see we've labeled them. While I'm taking these inside, I want you to look at something that we did in Florida last winter. We visited Bernica's nursery where they grow some really fine foliage plants. So let's take a look. I'm going to guess we're 20 miles west of Miami and probably 10 miles north of Homestead. And I'm in a very nicely shaded grove. And the shade is being provided by big trees, Australian pine. And they're about 80 to 100 feet tall, maybe even taller than that. And the trees are not growing here for lumber or for pulpwood. They're growing here to provide shade for this crop of spathiphyllum. Now, this is a plant that loves the shade. It's native to Hawaii. And this particular nursery does a lot of growing of spathiphyllum. And today I want to talk to Joe Graham, who is the head grower here at Bernica's. And Joe, what I really want to do today is to squeeze out of you every bit of cultural information that I possibly can that will help all of our viewers to grow better spathiphyllum in their homes.
Okay, well, great, Bob. Well, these are some of the spathiphyllum monoloa here. These are a lot bigger than what you were just looking at down the way.
They sure are. They're
but
beautiful.
These are probably 1.5 to 2 years old from seed.
Very nice plants.
And they're coming along very nicely.
Tell me a little bit about the flower.
Okay, well, if you see here now, we got this face forming on this flower. It's very, very pretty. It's white against dark green.
Beautiful.
Now, these start forming in March, about this time of year.
Yeah.
We'll have them through September.
And how many flower spikes would we get off a plant besides
Okay, well,
what you're
in this
dealing with
pot, you'll see that you actually have 3 in here.
now? Right.
But normally, in this pot, there's more than 1 plant.
Good.
Now, normally we'll have maybe 4.
I see. 4 blossoms off a single plant. But the pot will only have more than 1 plant in it, so you might get a dozen blossoms.
That's right. That's
All
correct. Now, in these plants here, if you notice that they are very, very healthy plants.
They look great.
You need these in a dark area.
I see.
Where it's very, where you get this dark, lush green color.
Yeah. Okay. I can see as I look under there now that you've got multiple stems in there.
Right.
All right. Now, while we're down in here, tell me the water requirements of this plant.
Okay. Now, this plant here needs to be kept relatively moist.
All
Don't
right.
ever let it dry out or it'll wilt pretty bad.
So it has a lot of water needed.
Right. In an air-conditioned room, especially with these big leaves, it will pull the water out of the leaf and from the roots and up.
Okay. Now, how would you recommend that people fertilize a plant like this?
Okay. When you fertilize a plant like this, don't go too heavy on it. Just a light fertilizer, maybe a 666 or something of this nature, and just a little bit every so often.
A regular, normal houseplant fertilizer would probably be okay.
That would be fine. Just
all right.
Whatever you normally use on your other plants.
Now, tell me how you go about growing these plants in your nursery here from seed.
Okay. Well, this naturally is what we showed you a while ago. Now, these little nodules you see on the spatted here, will each have about 3-4 seeds in it.
Not at this point. They have to ripe them.
Okay. Now, at this point, they will not be. This flower has to be pollinated first.
Okay.
And that's what holds it on. Once it's pollinated, now this bloom will stay on here maybe 2 months.
I see. All right.
And as the seed matures, it will turn dark green. This will swell up. Then it'll eventually turn sort of a yellow color, a greenish yellow to a bright yellow.
And then you know it's ripe.
And when it becomes soft, it's ripe.
Okay, then what do you do?
Collect it, you process the seeds, take the seeds out of it.
All right.
And then you plant them in a flat. Step over here and let me show you this flat we have. Now right here is some seeds that have been planted 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months.
These are all little bitty spathiphyllum plants.
Right. Now these plants can be taken from here at this stage and transplanted into a
big pot.
That's correct.
And it'll take them how long to produce flowers?
Okay, then from there to this stage it will be about another 9 to 12 months. So it's relatively rapidly growing after that point.
That's all right, but I have to ask you a question here. I look at a spathiphyllum plant and I can see that it's very easy to make divisions because of course we started off at some point with multiple planting in the pot.
Right.
Why can't I just tap this plant out of the pot and divide it up, cut the plants one away from the other, repot them, and wouldn't I be able to get a plant that would flower much more quickly than starting from seed?
From our experience, this is not so. Now, you can try to cut them up and you will produce a plant, which is fine. But it doesn't produce any faster than growing from the seed stage.
I see.
If you have your seedlings coming and step them up, it's just as fast, if not a little bit faster. Plus, these would be more disease resistant coming from a plant where you have more control over them.
That's a good enough reason. Joe, it's been an interesting... When we were in the spathiphyllums, I asked Joe what fertilizer he used. He mentioned that he used a 666. Well, that's okay. The way the spathiphyllum is a blooming plant, I'd rather use one with a fertilizer with a high middle number for more blossoms. I like to use a high first number for foliage. Okay, let's rejoin Joe and look at some palms. Joe, that's quite a responsibility.
It sure is.
I'm familiar with some, but I'll tell you the truth, not too many in the palm family. This one looks like the Kentia palm.
That's correct, Bob. That's our Kentia palm.
And it's a beauty. I've always liked it.
It's the old standby. It's been around a while in the foliage industry, and it's a very lush, green, pretty palm.
Well, I've seen it in big office buildings and atriums, and I've seen it in the home, too. I've never seen it this nice in the home, and I've seen it in smaller sizes.
That's correct. In the smaller sizes, they will, it's nice in a home, but as they grow, they get much bigger than this. Right. And it needs to be in a mall or somewhere like this.
Very much. I'm more familiar with this one. I've seen this more, the Neanthobel. And this is probably the last one I'm going to know.
Right. Yeah, this is a Chamaedorea neanthobella. This is a much smaller palm. It's what a lot of people call a poller palm.
Been around for a long time.
Oh, it's been around a long time, right.
And if I remember correctly, it'll grow 2 feet, 3 feet tall.
That's correct.
And that's about it.
Right.
And, you know, we get a lot of questions sent in to our Victory Garden program, and one of the questions that keeps recurring is that people have a little trouble with this particular variety of palm with spider mites.
That's correct. We do have spider mite problem on this more than our other palms.
Well, you know, that really doesn't bother me too much. It's a pretty little palm, and I can just take some tepid water and some soap suds and just get rid of those spider mites very easily. So I wouldn't want anybody not to grow it because of those spider mites.
That's correct. That can be taken care of that way in the home with no problem at all.
All right, now you've got one here that I am not familiar with at all.
Okay, now this is the one we're really high on. This is our Chamaedorea sopritzi.
Now that's related to the Neanthobel.
That's correct. It's in the same family, but it's a sopritzi. This one came from the Yucatan Peninsula. Quite a few years back, the owner's father bought some seed back, and we started some seed stock here.
Boy, I have not seen anything growing more densely than that plant.
Right.
Beautiful color. What are some of its better characteristics?
Well, I'll tell you what, this plant can be grown under a lot of different light regimes. For example, it can grow out in the full sun if it's been properly conditioned, as long as you have no frost conditions or cold weather. And also it can be grown in real low light levels. It's dense, full, and thick. It's very hardy.
As I look at it, I'm sure I've seen this in some of the big malls in different parts of the country and some of the atriums and some of the big office buildings.
I'm sure you have. This can be seen almost anywhere, in homes or in malls. It's becoming more popular every year.
And you've got bigger sizes?
Oh, yes, we do. Let me step down here. Let me show you these bigger sizes.
Oh, boy.
Look at these here. Just walk down through here.
Over 8 feet tall. I feel like I need a machete to get.
Right. It's almost like a jungle in here. It's nice and thick and full.
How do they get so dense? That's unusual, isn't it?
Well, step over here and let me show you. Now, normally a lot of your palms are solitary palms, but this happens to be one that suckers.
Solitary palm, you mean it just has a single trunk?
That's correct. Just a single trunk. Now, this one has a multi-trunk situation. For example, now here's a small sucker coming that comes off of one of the main trunks.
From an underground shoot, and then the sucker begins to grow.
Right off the side of the trunk there, and it just sprouts up and grows on up and makes another cane like these others.
Okay, now if you wanted to thin this plant down, if you wanted to make it smaller, would you take out canes right from the base, perhaps?
Right. You would cut the main cane off at the base, because if you cut off high, the whole cane will die anyway.
You just have stubble anyway.
Right. And so you could cut these off with no problem, and they will continue to sucker and growing up.
That's a wonderful, wonderful tree. Now, do you grow those, propagate them by cutting?
No, we don't. We grow these from our own seed stock. Step down here. Let me show you the seed that we. I think I can find some seed down here. Oh yeah.
Oh, gee, they look like a blueberry.
Right, they're very similar to a blueberry. Now, this was this year's crop. This is the very end of it. These seeds are about ready to fall off. Pull a few off, and you'll see what I mean there.
Oh,
they just fall right off.
Right off easily, don't they?
And this will be next year's seed crop coming up here.
That flower hasn't even opened.
Not yet. No, it'll soon open, and it'll be pollinated, and it'll produce a seed.
Now, is this self-fertile, or does it need to have...
No, it has to have a male and a female plant.
Okay.
Two different plants.
Two different plants altogether.
That's correct.
Cross-pollination.
That's correct.
That's interesting. All right, now where do you go from here?
Okay, now step over here and I'll show you what we do with those seeds you have. Now here's a flat where the plants have come up, we take the soil in the flat and plant the seeds.
These little